I am so delighted to be joined this morning by author AnnMarie Knorr-Fischer, and she's the co-author of Raven Naelo and the Artifact of the Stolen Souls. I gotta tell her, before you even start, AnnMarie, your cover design is just outrageously gorgeous. And I'm so thrilled that you have a big, beautiful poster behind you with that picture. Oh my gosh, look at that picture.
Thank you. Thank you. We were very excited about this. We knew going into this project that we didn't want to just do the normal book cover. We wanted something that's fun and action. And so we found a local author here in the Hershey area named Chris Ennerline, and he did this beautiful, beautiful cover for us. And he's also going to be doing our second book cover as well. So we are so excited. And here, let me show you. This part is the front cover, and then I'll show you if you can see. That's the back of the book. Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh,
Yes.
could you? Does it open full?
It opens up fully. Yeah.
Oh,
It's the transition between well, I'm not going to give it away, but there's a very important scene that this is, and then this is the camp that Raven goes to, part of the camp. So yeah, so we loved it. We really knew that when we were designing that, Rachel, our co-author, wanted it to be inclusive and have a strong front and back cover, because when it's on the shelf, if somebody accidentally puts it back, she wants the art to be able to pop no matter how you see it on the shelf. So
good thinking, and boy, does it pop. We've been talking about that in my office. What a gorgeous cover.
Thank you so much.
So is this your first foray into creative writing?
It is our first novel.
Okay.
Prior to this, Rachel and I collaborated on writing 2 play scripts for a high school that I was a director at. So Rachel, for me, because I couldn't find something that I really was passionate about for the kids, created this amazing adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. Was her first writing excursion. And then the second one was a script she actually created out of just characters she designed, called Dead End Inn, which is kind of like I guess a combination of the Addams Family and Dark Shadows and the Munsters. It was just a really cool collaboration of all the things, and both of those shows were huge successes with the school. So that's how that part started, and then we just basically rolled into doing our very first novel of a trilogy series. So it's been exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I get to meet so many authors, which I'm thrilled. And I'm always fascinated when I have authors who work in partnership together with someone else, just to hear about that dynamic, how that works with writing. Do you write a little and then she fixes it? Do you each write your own and mish in the middle? How does this work?
So actually, it goes chapter by chapter. So for the most part, what happens is she and I will sit and brainstorm. Okay, this is everything that has to happen in this chapter. And then she'll sit down and she'll flush it out so that we just get the bones of it. And then she turns it over to me. And then I go in, and I'm really good at the small details. So I go in and add all of the fine details and the fluff and all that kind of stuff. And then once I do my part, I send it back to her again. And then she goes in and does one final run through to make sure that I didn't miss anything, or if maybe something might have clicked in her head and went, oh, what if we do this? And then she'll work that in. And then before I send it over to our editor, who's been helping us with book 2 chapter by chapter, we would we would run it through like Grammarly and all that kind of stuff, and just make sure that all on our end was done, and then it gets transitioned over. But the creative process is definitely a good partnership where it's a lot of back and forth. She might have an idea and I might say, I don't like that, and vice versa. She might read something I wrote and say, what were you thinking? No, she can't do that. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about 3 chapters ago. So it's a great partnership. And it takes a lot of creativity. Like I said, I'm really good at the little tiny details. She's phenomenal on things like the battle scenes and also dialogue.
Oh,
She is incredible with dialogue. That's not my forte. So it works really, really well.
so you
So
chose well. This was a good synergy.
yeah, yeah, it's perfect actually.
Oh, that's great. You've never battled on a I want this in and that's
Oh,
that.
of course we have. That where would the fun be if we didn't have a little confrontation? Absolutely. We have we always joke around because we have family members or friends that are our referees. So like when we're stuck on something, we'll be like, all right, let's call them and see what they think. And then we get people's opinions. And then whoever has to concede be like, all right, fine. Most of the time Rachel wins because her ideas are so good. Usually it's me going, all right, yes, I messed up. We'll go back the other way now. But it's all fun. It's all fun. The process is amazing to do this. And like I said, we're in the middle of writing book 2. So we learned so much from the first book. Now that the second book is definitely smoother.
Oh, it's so good to hear
Yeah.
from you with us because we have so many authors out there and people write alone, together, whatever, and hearing the inner workings, what's working for you so that somebody else might say, I've always wanted to write a book with, you know, another person, somebody I met at a writer's workshop, my cousin, my friend, whatever it might be, and they just weren't sure how to even start that process. You know,
Yep.
so the insight is so
Yeah.
helpful.
You find your strengths and you roll with it. Neither one of us are very good at like the editing part. Like we have gotten so much better with the second book, but that's why you have professional editors. Like that's their job. Your job is just to get your ideas on that page, and their job is come in and tell you, yeah, you have a lot of work to do on your grammar, and that's okay. Like that is absolutely okay, and
I
you just learn in the process.
I am so glad you said that because I say that to writers all the time. Get it out on the page. If,
Yep.
if we start to self edit, and many editors, authors, shall I say, actually are also editors. They, work as editors in other places. But that's almost a bad thing when you start self editing as you're writing,
Right.
putting up a wall. Get it
Right.
out on the page.
Right. But yeah, because when you have an editor, when you send it to an editor or even family or friends, it's those second set of eyes, your alpha and beta testers are the ones that are going to be like, did you realize that you said this about that character here and then 3 chapters later something different? And then you're like, oh, that's what you need. Like you need that. So yeah. We're so grateful for the support that we have from everybody to be able to do this. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
bring me back to the inception. Tell me a little bit about Raven Naelo and how she was
Absolutely.
born in the first place.
Absolutely. So as I said, Rachel has always been really into role-playing games like D&D. And it started years and years ago when she was playing with her cousin Kevin and some friends. And they created a campaign that actually had Igor in it, who is Raven's father. And so Igor and another character named Gideon were part of this campaign. And so they had played with these characters for a while, and then they just went off and started a new campaign. Well, several years ago, Rachel was going through some boxes when she was moving and stuff, and she came across those old sheets. And she showed them to me, and I was reading through all the different details and stuff, and she was telling me a little bit about, it's got this cool tavern with this magic ball, and I'm like, this would be an incredible book. And that's literally how the process started. And so she and I, from that point, I mean, it took us almost 10 years from when we decided, let's do this as a book, until it actually was printed. So it was hard the first, because you go through all those questions in your mind that I've noticed a lot of your other authors have said on the show, of like, can I do this? Should I do this? What if people don't like it? It's not about that. It's about telling your story, because then who else will be able to say, I have this book out in the world for the future to read? And so that's what's so amazing. But the storyline was great. So when we started looking at it, Rachel says, well, you know what? She's like, I really think we should have a female lead in this. And she started brainstorming and she said, I think Igor's going to have a daughter. And then she's like, you know what? He's going to have two. And that's how the concept of the story unfolded. And the premise of the first book basically follows Raven, and she's in D&D terms, she's a rogue, which is kind of like a sneak thief type of, and she and that's what her father was. And so she wants to follow after him, but she wants to one up him better. She actually wants to also train in magic, which will enhance her rogue skills, which he never did. So she got accepted to this very elite camp with Gideon and a bunch of other students to train her skills to become a really, really strong rogue through magic. So while they're all off on camp training, there's this demon who comes into the from the abyss into their realm and partners with a human necromancer in their reality realm and causes all kinds of chaos. So what happens is Raven gets out of camp and now her world is on fire, basically. And her and the other guardians have to find out how do they protect their world. So that's the summation of the book. So we're so excited about it. And people that have had the opportunity to read it really, really love our characters and our world that we've created.
So a book born from a Dungeons and Dragon game.
That's the bolts of it. Absolutely.
Now, did you know when you started that this was going to be a series? Because I'm presuming that there's a book too.
Yes. So when we first started about it, Rachel was like, maybe let's just do one book. And then we met with a friend of mine who has published books, and she said, listen, she says, most good books are a trilogy.
Yep.
Don't limit yourself to just one book. This is a lot, because she looked at our whole, at that time it wasn't the book yet, it was just details, like an outlining. And she says, there's a lot of information here. I don't think you should cram it all into one book, and you don't want to just do two books, because most times it's either a single book, a 3, 5, 7, whatever. So at that point, Rachel and I took that basic concept and divided it into two books. But the problem was, okay, now we've had plenty of information for book one. That was done. We were good. We were solid on that. With book two, we had about this much. And then we're like, okay, so now how do I fill in 20 some chapters with this much? So, but it was so much fun to sit there and pull new characters out that we didn't even know of a couple of years ago and just create more of this realm. And then the third book, we have even smaller amount, but we know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of
it'll come.
Now we're going to find out about a whole new characters, and we're really excited. We're so excited about this trilogy. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I could see it. I could see you absolutely bubbling over with excitement.
Thank you.
Great. Tell me a little bit about, because, writing something like a trilogy, and a fantasy trilogy of all things, can be so insurmountable for people. Tell me about, do you have timelines, character charts, index cards, whiteboards, Post-it?
Yeah.
Tell me about everything.
Yep. So we have character sheets, and we have a style sheet. So like our character sheet has listing of everything that people look like and who they're related to and what their weapons look like and stuff like that. We have a style sheet, which helps with our editor to try to make sure we have all the spellings right all the time and things like that. So we have that. That we have, again, the outline, we're constantly changing our outline and our timeline around. Like even last night we were sitting there going, wait, no, let's move this one up to this chapter now and that one. So so that's a constant changing document. So so everything that we create starts solid, but it's going to change because you just never know who's going to pop up in your head. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the most exciting thing, like inside the book, I know it's going to be hard for me to find this here really quick, but we have this gorgeous map that I need to show everybody. And you can see Oh, it's on the bottom of the seam, but like it's black and white in the book. But this isn't
Oh,
that gorgeous?
yeah.
So that's our land of Euphrasia that we created from scratch. So it's only actually the western part. So the cool thing about our map is it's going to grow with each book, so that we start in getting introduced more and more to the different parts of the world. And so yeah. So that's all we have. And then I mean, we don't have any like index cards or anything like that, but we've got notebooks everywhere, and we've got ideas that we jotted down from years ago that we look at it and go, don't like that, but how about doing this instead? So yeah, it's interesting when you're talking about a fantasy world, because it's very different than if you were writing like a book in modern day and you have to know all those, like, where is a certain building at in a certain city and stuff like that. With our world, anything goes, because it's just fresh in our head. So that's what's been, I think, for me, the most exciting part is that it's no holds barred. Like, you can go anywhere and do anything in this world. So, and then what's fun is like when you start thinking about like cool ways about like, okay, this is way back then, they wouldn't have electricity, how do they see? And then like Rachel will be like, it's magic, we can make them have a magical object. Well, that's wonderful, that's great. So that goes right. So it's like that. Like, sometimes I get stuck in my own head where I'm a very logical, but like, oh, but we need this. And then I always have Rachel, who's again so creative and imagination, to be able to be like, okay, I know there's a spell for this, and she'll find it and she'll be like, oh, we can do this, and that completely negates the problem we were having. And I'm like, that's amazing. So yeah.
Well, you get to make everything up, but you do have to, like you were saying, keep everything straight.
Yes.
So that if this spell did something in this chapter, it has to do the same thing.
Yep.
Fantasy is fun and creative, but then you have to keep your whole world straight so you're consistent.
Right. Which we have this this timeline. You can't see it really, but like,
oh, okay,
this is our timeline of basically when everybody was born, who overlaps in time. That's like big moments in their lives. So yeah, so you have to keep that straight, because when you're dealing with people like elves, they live for hundreds of human years. So it's always making sure that all of that lines up with the humans they're interacting with, to make sure that you're not going, wait a minute, he's supposed to be this many years old versus this, and that makes no sense. So yeah, so that's the tricky part, is our timeline.
Right. Oh, I bet there's a lot of tricky parts. You're just really good at this. So what's the best thing that has happened since the book has come out? What has been surprising?
I think our biggest surprises has been when we, pre-COVID, went to a bunch of book events.
Yes.
How well everybody, the reactions towards our book.
Oh.
But we were doing so well at different events and stuff like that, and having people, and I think it has a lot to do with our book cover.
Gorgeous.
And it would always attract people, even if it was smaller events that only a handful of people were there. Like, we would do really well with just even those handful of people, and just the excitement. Like, so many of the people that have become fans that ask about the book and when's the next one and stuff like that. So I think that's been the most is just creating a little fan base.
Absolutely. And boy, do I miss those book events and things like that.
Oh,
I can't wait for the day that we're back at book events.
Yes, me too.
Where can I think that I have your web address right here, so our viewers can find you at rafisherauthors.com.
Correct.
Okay. And you can find Raven Naelo and the Artifact of the Stolen Souls there, and at major booksellers online, and also keep abreast of the progress for book 2.
Yep, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you are in on the ground floor. So tell me a little bit about, is there a particular age range or personality range? We're coming into the holidays. Who should buy this book? I mean, besides
everybody. No. So age-wise, we're thinking it's mostly for like 16 years and older. We found that our demographic is 16 to 30, but with that said, we do have a lot of older readers as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody over the age of 16, anybody that's into Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, fantasy, D&D, any of the Magic the Gathering game, anything like that, they would love this book.
Terrific. So you heard that if you're looking to shop.
Yes, go to our website. And we could definitely help you with, we've got paperbacks, we've got hardcovers. We're actually hoping, I'm not sure yet, but we might have some jewelry to be able to be sold for that. Yeah, so we're hoping for the holidays. If not, it'll definitely be up for Valentine's Day, you know, something a little different, maybe. But yes, but we would love for everyone to hop on our website and buy a book. That'd be great.
It is a gorgeous book to be putting under a tree somewhere. So
thank you. Thank you
so much for joining us, and good luck with the book.
Thank you everyone, and have a happy holidays.
Thanks. I am so excited that we have a first happening here today, which is one of our newest releases, The Mysterious Animal Soup and Rachel's Gifts by Rony Kessler. Well, not only do we have the author here with us today, but we have the author's granddaughters. And they are not just here because they're beautiful, they're here because they were actually a major part of the development and editing of this story. After today's episode, you're going to wish that your granddaughters were as talented. But first off, Rony, thank you so much for joining me here today, and
My pleasure.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
So tell me, how long has this book been in process?
I would say at least 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. Yeah, it started on a napkin when I was waiting for someone. And then it languished for many, many years until the virus woke it up and gave me lots of time to write. So
I am so thrilled that you had time to write during the virus. You know, writers have been one of two camps. They've either written a lot during the virus, or they feel like they're just, you know, kind of stuck with the virus. So I'm glad you're a productive virus guy.
Yes.
So after 20 years, how does it feel to hold the book in your hand?
It feels great. It feels great. It's, you know, an out-of-body experience. You know, it's like, wait a minute, is that really me? You know, yeah, but it's also a very, very nice experience.
Wonderful. Well, can you please introduce us to our esteemed guests here today?
Yes, of course, of course. We have Avery. Avery, say hi.
Hi.
And Lila and Dahlia.
Hi.
And boy, are you a lucky man to have such, a beautiful group of granddaughters and editors here, but also to get some firsthand experience as you were writing the book, which was great, and feedback right away. So first, before we even start discussing the book, I need someone to tell me, well, I'm going to read what it says on the back of the book, and then I'm going to need a little input to share with our viewers. So Rachel, a young girl, survives a horrible crime and loses her voice, but not her determination to solve the tragedy that has befallen her family. Rony Kessler's novel that occurs in both the US and the Middle East is a riveting page-turner that pits Rachel, a 12-year-old, against a gang of thugs that attacked her family. Okay, so Rachel, our heroine here, is 12. How old are you girls? Avery, how old are you?
11.
11. You're practically the same age. Okay, and where are you located right now? Because we're on Zoom, so you could be anywhere in the world. Where are you?
Right now I'm in Stockton, California.
Stockton, California. And is that a warm part of California or a cold part of California?
I don't really know. I guess warm.
Well, she's wearing a sweater, so I'm thinking maybe not too warm. And did I hear that you were recently someplace much warmer?
Yeah, I was just like a month ago living in Dakar, Senegal, which is in Western Africa.
Wow. And how long did you live there for?
Like 2.5 years.
You like it?
It was very hot and humid and buggy, but it was fun.
Hot, humid, and buggy.
Mhm.
People's favorite things, hot, humid, and buggy. Now, Lila, how old are you?
I'm 13 and I'm turning 14 in a few weeks.
Wow. Okay, so you're a little bit older than our Rachel in the book. And Dahlia, how old are you?
I'm 10, but soon I'm going to turn 11.
11. We're right there. Rony, you picked really good granddaughters who are right around the age group. You know, so many of our writers could use someone who's the right age to ask a lot of these questions.
Well, which comes first? You know, the chicken or the egg? I wrote the book for tweens because I wanted my granddaughters to be able to read it and be entertained by the book.
Okay, but wait a minute. You told me it started 20 years ago on a napkin. These girls.
Well, that's why I waited until they were old enough. No, but once I started writing, I had written the first 3 chapters at that time, maybe 20 years ago. But then when I went back to the book and I started writing it, I changed the beginning. I changed the first couple of chapters because I wanted it to be, you know, user-friendly for my granddaughters.
Fantastic, fantastic. And Lila and Dahlia, where are you located right now?
We're living in Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Fairfax, Virginia. We are just all over the country right now. Gosh, I love the beauty of Zoom. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And we're missing Sayla. I got a text that she couldn't come on, but she is in New Jersey. So we have multiple states represented.
Over the place. Absolutely. So the story is about Rachel, who is a 12-year-old and a gang of thugs. Is that a good rendition of this book, girls? You all read it.
Yeah.
Did you girls ever have to deal with a gang of thugs yourselves? I hope that this was the whole book was a figment of your grandpa's imagination and not real life things with thugs. I hope that's true.
Yes,
I hope he made the whole thing up. And then
I did.
Good. So tell me a little bit about what was your favorite part in the book? Any of the 3 of you, what was your favorite part?
I think that one of my favorite parts was towards the end, actually, where they were trying to figure out if the bad guy was actually the bad guy, and they were like interviewing him, but like he didn't know that they were part of the police.
Oh, so like there was a little bit of a, you know, undercurrent of what's the truth going on here. I like that. Okay. Dolly, what was your favorite part?
I didn't really have a favorite part. I liked it all. So I liked one of the mess ups.
You got people
The is where he was like tired and he was writing the book and he accidentally, like this guy, he accidentally made die twice. It was really funny.
Very funny. And Avery, did you have a favorite part?
I can't say I did either. I just enjoyed reading it and like the experience of reading it and like feeling what the character was feeling.
Okay, what the character was feeling. Now, do you 3 girls like to read books a lot or not readers not very much?
I have been reading all of my sister's books because I don't have any books to read.
Good thing you have a sister. And Lila, you like to read?
Yes.
What kinds of books do you like to read?
Well, I do like mystery books.
Oh, okay. So that's why you liked the part with the mystery in here.
And I also like fantasy books. Me Those too. Are like the main books that I like. Me too. I also really like fantasy.
Okay. Avery, what do you like?
I like fantasy, but I've been starting to get really into graphic novels, which I haven't been really interested in before, but now I think they're sort of nice. But I just finish them so fast that I'll usually read longer books. I like better.
Now, while we have the benefit of assistance, because lots of people write middle grade books, but they don't always have smart people like yourselves who are the right age to be able to ask a lot of questions. So I know that there are a lot of authors out there who would love to ask a million questions of actual readers. So let me ask you a couple of questions that, and these kinds of questions are to help other people who are writers, okay? Now you three happen to be girls. Does that mean that you generally like when the star of a book is a girl, or do you go both ways?
I go both ways.
You go both ways? If the star of the book is a boy, that's okay? I was wondering if you, are there more boy books than girl books out there? Is that something that readers?
What I want to read depends on like what the book is about.
Yeah. Depends on what the book's about.
So like if it seems really interesting, if it's about a boy character, I'll read it. If it's about a girl character, I'll read it. But if it sounds interesting, then I might not.
Now this book has a definite, like a science bent to it. Is that something that generally appeals to you, or is that something you're like, not loving that, but I'll tolerate it? What are we thinking? Do we like books that have some sort of a scientific bent? Or was that, is this the first book you ever read that had a science bend to
I think
it?
it depends on like how much of the science is in it. Like if the whole book is just science, then I might feel a little boring. But if there's like facts in it and like I wouldn't know, then I feel like that's interesting for me.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, this book also had a big mystery in it. Do readers your age generally like mysteries? I see 2 yeses over there. I see a yes up there. Okay, so mystery is a good place for people to be writing books for your age bracket. Now, how often do you read books, the three of you? Do you read a book every day, once in a while? Oh, Avery reads every day. I saw a big smile on her face.
I read every day.
Every day. Wow. If you three are reading every day, you know what your grandfather has to do? He has to keep writing.
Yeah.
And luckily, he is a very prolific writer. I mean, not only did he release this, he just released this book. He's very, very good at writing fast, because if we're going to have readers like you who want to read every day, we don't want to run out of books. That's for sure. Now, this book was, let's see, I can count, 212 pages long. Now, for readers your age, is that like, that's about normal? I mean, you could see the length here. Or was that like, wow, that was so long?
For me, actually, I think it's a little bit smaller than what I actually normally read.
Okay.
It's kind of normal for me, but it really depends on the kind of person you are. If you like short books, then you like short books, and if you like long books, then you like long books. So,
For me, I'm recently interested in reading like really, really long books, but sometimes I just want to have like a quick read. And also the pages in a book depends on how small the printing is.
That's
Like
very
if the printing is really big and if they're like big colorful pictures, then it might be a really long book. But if there's like small print and no pictures, it might be a really short book, but it might still be the same amount of words in both of the books.
very true. So sometimes somebody might like those longer books, but sometimes all three of you sound like you're into a quick read also. You know, so Rony, something for us to think about in the future. We may want to go with maybe like a little collection of short stories too, just for people when they want that quick fix.
Yeah.
Just something to toss out there about short stories, right? You know?
I feel like the Professor and the Wild Dog was a like kind of short story because I think I read it like in a few hours.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised. Yes, this one, which was done as a prequel book, is much shorter. In fact, it's 60 pages. So it's like a quarter of the size. So it's much, much shorter, and you could probably read that in a couple of hours, like you said.
But what I also like about with the Professor and the Wild Dog, I haven't read it yet, but I want to, is that some people, like, when they make shorter books, they're usually like for a younger reading level.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes I just want to have a short, quick read, but then I don't have any books like at my level that are short, which sometimes is annoying.
That is a really, really good point to say, and I'm so glad you said that. If in general the shorter books are for younger people, we're forgetting that the ones with a higher reading level might also like short books sometimes. You know, sometimes it's kind of the way I watch TV. You know, maybe sometimes I'll want to watch a 2-hour movie, but sometimes I like one of those quick shows, you know? I think that's why YouTube is so popular, isn't it? Because you could just watch quick things, and sometimes we don't feel like watching 3 hours of something, do we?
Yeah, so I have a question for you girls. What character in the book, other than Rachel, would you want to see again in the next sequel?
Ooh, talking about this.
If you make a sequel, you could base it, instead of off Rachel's perspective, you could do it on one of her siblings' perspectives.
Very interesting.
I also kind of wanted to see what the bad guy's perspective was, and a little bit more.
Okay.
More about the bad guy.
Yeah, well, that bad guy's still around. He's in prison. I wonder if he can escape.
I bet he could.
Yeah.
Maybe, like a bystander, like maybe Rachel's aunt.
Yeah.
Perspective, because like she's not like exactly one of like the super main characters like Rachel and like the bad guys, but she's more like a bystander, and then maybe off of her perspective would be cool to see.
I think that's a great idea.
Good point. Yeah.
These are all great ideas for the sequel, and maybe the sequel after the sequel, and maybe that next thing you know, we'll have a whole shelf devoted to all of these stories. Now, let me ask you, do you girls usually like books that have like a whole series of books? Yeah, that's something you like, huh? Why do you like books in a series? What makes you like them?
Well, their stories like continue, like it doesn't end until the last book. Like it's just like, well, I finished this book, now I can just get the next book and start reading it, instead of like, oh, the story's over, now I need to find a whole new book to read.
I think it also depends on like the author. Like I like the way the author writes, and I'm excited to read the next one.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
It's kind of like good movies have sequels now too, don't they?
Yeah.
Book after book after book. So how does it feel to see Grandpa's name on the bottom of a book? Do you like that?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. Do any of the three of you write?
Me, Dolly, and Sayla actually started our own book.
Really? Oh, how exciting. Avery, do you write also?
Yeah. Right now I'm writing a book. I think it might be a novel, I don't know yet. About my grandma's friend who lives across the street. She has a lot of cats, and I'm writing a story about her cat.
Really? What a great way to start a story, off of kind of springboarding off of something you see in real life. Interesting. What about the book you're working on? Dolly, you look like you're about to say something.
It's being told by these 3 different girls who go to a prep school, but they're like completely different. Like one of them is really, really popular. That's whose story I write. The other one, she just moved there. She's like kind of poor. She's the one that Sayla writes, and then Lila writes the one. She's not popular, but like the people who run the school, it's her mother,
And she's really shy.
and so it's like rotating between their perspectives.
Wow, I really like that. I like that a lot. Rony, you look like you had a question.
No, what I was going to say is, you asked them about seeing my name on the book, but did you guys see your names in the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
I should hope so.
Mm.
I saw their names in the book.
But I have to say that they really helped me and gave me very good suggestions, some corrections, and I really appreciated it. Sayla is not on, but she's the one that suggested that in the hardcover we include both the book and the novella, which we're going to do, by the way. And the idea of having the little map of the rooms. I think, was it you, Lila, that suggested that? Yeah. So there were a lot of good suggestions. So.
Fantastic. Well, Rony, what would you suggest to other writers on how to best utilize the talent in their families? How did you work this out with the girls? Did you send it to them while it was in process and ask for feedback? How did this whole thing work?
No, actually, I have to give you credit because, and by the way, I went to a couple of your seminars, and you're a wonderful coach. And you said first, put it through the computer and correct all your spelling and grammar, which I definitely need. Then read it out loud, which my wife will love very much, did with me. And we caught a lot of stuff that the computer didn't catch. And finally, send it to somebody to read it for you. And that's when I send it to my granddaughters.
What a great...
Yeah, I have to say I send it to a few adults also. So I got some adults' perspective, and I wanted to make sure before I even sent it to the granddaughters that the adults read it and give me feedback whether it's appropriate and whether there's anything in the book that might be not appropriate.
Right.
And once we cleared that hurdle, then it went to the granddaughters, and they gave me terrific feedback.
Well, I think that was a great method, is have the computer clean it up first. I always say what you mentioned, read it out loud, because that catches all those things the computer doesn't catch. And then we call what your granddaughters were doing beta readers, people who are reading the book before it is even published to make sure that everything is, makes sense, make sure it's appealing, make sure that the characters are people that you would want as your friends for the good people, and make sure that the bad guy is bad. And
Right.
so important what you just said, Rony, which is making sure that it is age appropriate, because that's kind of hard for people when they're writing, if adults are writing adult books, it's a little bit easier for them because they know. But when adults are writing for tweens, I hope they are as lucky as you to have some tweens around.
Now, I have a question for you girls, because when I read the book, when I went back and read the book, I actually got emotional at certain places in the book. I mean, I wrote it, but then when I read it, it was like I read somebody else's book. And I got very emotional. For example, I don't want to give it away, but when there's a revelation to Rachel, like a big surprise to Rachel, did you have any places in the book that you found it emotional, that you reacted to?
Good question. Good question. And remember, we don't give away spoilers.
Right.
We want people to read the book, so we're not going to tell them what happened. But was there something that evoked a lot of emotion, but when you say it, and I know this is not easy, don't give it away?
I think that when Rachel was trying to find her sibling, she didn't know where it was. I got scared because are they okay? What happened to them?
Yeah, well, especially when you have siblings. When you're reading about something happening to a sibling and you have a sibling. Now, if you obviously like your sibling, which is good. If you scared about that part. But you girls get along, which is good. Avery, do you have a thought about it?
Yeah, the beginning, also, like, at the beginning when she hears things that no one else hears, I just start like getting into like the mood of the story. And then sometimes I'll like catch myself laughing or things like that in like certain parts that are really funny or really sad or things like that.
I have to say, you girls are doing a fabulous job not giving it away while you're saying it.
Yes.
Fabulous. Oh my gosh. Because I know what they're talking about. And I was feeling it, Avery, at exactly that same moment. And Lila, yes, 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 but you're being very good. So many people are not that good about it because we want them to find out for themselves, because it is a page turner. This book is a page turner because you keep turning the pages because you
I
wanted to
didn't put it down when I was
Yeah.
reading it.
Yeah, it's a page.
I think I started reading it at nighttime by my mistake. I was up till like midnight, like trying to. I need to finish it.
Me too, I think. Yeah.
What happens? That is the greatest compliment you can give a book.
Yes.
Couldn't put it down because you wanted to see what happened. Well, you know, the first time I ever read it, I felt the same way. And I read, at least 5 books a week. Just because as a book publisher, people send me books and I'm working on books and I read a lot of books. And when I first got my hands on this one on my computer, I kept going and going because I wanted to see what's gonna happen. So that's definitely, for me, I wasn't turning pages at that point. I was scrolling very quickly on my iPad.
Me too.
That's what I was doing. I was scrolling very quickly on my iPad. It wasn't published or anything. It was still just a manuscript, but I was anxious to see what happened. So I really appreciate how you girls are keeping it a secret so that other people can get the book and be just like us and leaping through as quickly as possible. So now we talked a little bit about what the sequel could be coming off of this, but let's say your grandfather wanted to write something completely different next time around. Just saying. You 3 are creative. Give them an idea of some crazy book. We always say to authors, you should write the book that you want to read, but it doesn't exist yet. So what is the book that doesn't exist yet that you want him to write?
Maybe like a mystery book from like an animal's perspective or something.
Mystery book from an animal's perspective. That sounds pretty
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. What other ideas do you have for the book that doesn't exist right now, but you would love to read? It's a tough one, I know.
Maybe like an adventure story that has like mystery and it's like a thriller, sort of like that is.
Yeah.
I've always looked for books about like with like a cat as the main character. But I've not really been able to find any good ones, so that's why I'm writing one about cats, because that's why
We have some animal lovers on this call here, which is good.
Yeah, and
Yes.
maybe a book that's like fantasy and mystery. So it's kind of like you can write it from the point of view of like anything, because fantasy things that don't really exist in the real world, like mermaids and unicorns, you could write it from that perspective, but it could still be a mystery book.
Or you can write it from like everyday objects, from the brush's perspective.
Wow. You hear all these ideas there, Rony?
Yeah, I'm thinking like, yeah, that's some good ideas.
I think you better get busy is what I think.
Yeah, yeah. How about an alien cat? That's gonna have to be book number 3, because book number 2 is going to be about Rachel and someone that she becomes friends with, who she's gonna help.
All right.
And I think you're gonna like it. It's not gonna be a fantasy. It's gonna be real, but hopefully it's going to have a lot of mystery in it.
All right. Well, we're going to get ready for that second one. I just want to remind all of our viewers that we have Mysterious Animal Soup and Rachel's Gifts. And also there is a novella, the prequel, The Professor and the Wild Dogs. So if you want to find out what happened kind of before this book, this is the before. They're both available in paperback and in digital and in hardcover with both of them together. So you get the whole Megillah, because that was a great idea to couple them together. Any last thoughts for our author, your grandfather here, or for any other authors who may be watching? Any tips or tricks or thoughts you want to give them before we send your grandfather off to write those books for us?
I like when the beginning like gets you hooked. Like sometimes if like the beginning is like really boring for like 3 chapters, then it's really hard for me to continue pushing on. But like something like happens, like there's a little bit more like fluff and you don't know what happened. And, like I want to read like what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, the author should start with the action right away, so you're gripped in.
And then maybe we can like start with action, but then like add some else, like it's like action, but then like not action. So there's like a little bit more like backstory, but then they get back into
Action, backstory, action.
Okay, I hope our authors are listening to this. This is from people who are your actual readers, and that's the technique: action, backstory, action.
For me, usually I always have trouble like starting my story, and then what I have been recently doing is I just write what you know, because you can always go back and erase and delete, but if you just write what you know, then you can get much farther. Just a steady stream of writing instead of waiting for the right thought to come.
Wiser words were never spoken. What you know. Oh my goodness. I think you 3 could be, guest lecturers at a writing class. That's for sure. And if you're in New York and we're holding some, I would love to have you, because we certainly need guest lecturers who will tell people exactly how to do it. Rony,
And future clients for you when they're ready to publish their books.
yes, because that's what we do. We publish books. So we are ready for you. Any thoughts, Rony, or before we send you back to the typewriter?
Well, I really appreciate you guys helping me and reading the book. I'm even happier that you enjoyed it. And special signed copies will be in the mail to you.
I love that. Sounds fantastic. Well, I can't thank you all enough for being here for our first ever multi-generational book release video. And I'm thrilled that you're here. And yeah, like you said, Rony, I can't wait to read what you 3 are writing. So please keep in touch and send it along.
And thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us on Between the Covers. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're an author who would be interested in appearing on our show, or perhaps you're a member of a book club, we do host book clubs as well, please visit BetweenTheCoversTV.com. By the way, at BetweenTheCoversTV.com, you can watch past episodes in addition to learning more about our authors and guests. So sign up there if you would like to be a guest on the show yourself. And if you have some books that you would like to get written or published, visit redpenguinbooks.com. Thanks so much for joining us.